Typography has a special place in the world of design, and it can dramatically impact the way a design feels. It can make a design look busy or clean. It might even be the design itself. Through understanding the anatomy and structure of typography, it goes a long way in deepening your understanding of design. This is a serif font. We know this because of the little brackets at the end of the characters. And each letter of this word is called a character. If you were to draw a line that hugs the bottom of each letter, not including the little tails, which are called the descenders, this line would be called your baseline. You can also draw a line across the top of these characters, which does not include what's called the ascenders, or this little area right here, and then you can draw your second baseline. What are between these two lines is the very core of your word or character, and this can help you find balance in your type. You may find you have more ascending than descending characters, and this revelation can help you decide how to balance this type in a headline or a logo, for example. The line that can be drawn at the top on the tip top of your ascenders is called the ascent line. The line that can be drawn across the bottom of your descenders is called the descent line, so hopefully that can be easy to remember. With a really good font, you'll be able to draw these nice ascending and descending lines across the top and the bottoms, but not all fonts or typefaces work that way. Script fonts, like this one, don't always follow this nice lined pattern. Now let's go over some basic typography vocabulary. The tail is the very tip of the character. The descender area, which we now know takes up the bottom half, the tail is just the very tip of the character. This is an example of the stem of the character. Ears are anything that expands outside of the character, like in this example of the G. Fortunately, you'll notice a lot of typography terms are named after human anatomy, so as you can guess, this H is a great example of a shoulder. Loops are common in certain font characters. Anything that's completely closed inside a character is called a closed counter. This is an example of a character leg. Crossbars join two stems together, for example, in this A. There are hundreds of different terms and vocabulary words for describing typography anatomy. I'm not going to learn them all, and you don't have to know them all, but it's great to be familiar with some of the basic vocabulary. That means knowing some of the basics is fantastic, but don't feel like you have to know every single term and memorize it. What's most important is studying how type feels, looks, and behaves with other characters, words, and colors in designs to make our overall pieces cohesive and balanced. I'll go over a few terms that are must-know terms in the world of graphic design. Many of these phrases and terms are thrown around in client emails and professional feedback you may receive. Kerning is the manual created space between each character. Each type has a natural kerning added to it. When you manually reduce or expand the spacing between the characters using software like we'll use in the class, you'll get the term kerning. In logo design, for example, I always try to manually kern type characters because even just slight adjustments can make a big impact on how it looks. The default spacing on fonts is not always perfect. Also, kerning can help balance the logo by increasing or decreasing the space created between characters. Tucking that letter in to reduce that extra white space can elevate your type in your design. I love to experiment with different font options when doing logos and headlines. Some fonts work really well for my desired look, beautiful serifs, tails, and loops. But take, for instance, these fonts. Notice how they look pretty similar at first glance, but they vary quite a bit when you zoom in and you look for the little details. The spacing between sentences or phrases is called leading. The amount of leading between sentences in a larger paragraph can really change the look and feel of a block of type. Larger spacing or leading between sentences can look very clean. Tighter spacing can feel pretty cramped. When you are learning intermediate or advanced design techniques, you'll need to know how to manually space and balance logos, headlines, and custom lettering. When working on headlines or type, I like to tighten the spacing between characters or words. I try to find opportunities to put words and characters in nice white spaces, almost like a puzzle piece, and it seems to work really well that way when I do that. We can do this easily in Adobe Illustrator. I'm taking a simple 3-word headline and finding the right spacing between the characters and the words. You'll notice a big difference using the default spacing in the font and then using my own custom spacing. There seems to be a big difference when I really start to play and noodle around with it. Sometimes your main headline and phrase is the biggest focus of your design, and having a nice custom tailored look to your typography goes a long way in making it look professional. It's also good practice to combine different font types and styles in the same headline. So in this case, taking our less important words and making them smaller and in italics, and pairing it with a nice script font and combining that together, and also using this sans serif font, it really works well together. Also, tucking in words and reducing large amounts of white space between the characters and letters makes it seem more like a cohesive design. Custom lettering is very important in logo design and branding. In this case, I'm taking 2 script fonts and combining them together to make one unique word. Script fonts can be tricky. If you don't like how a script font looks with the first capital letter, you can always take another script font and use that as the first capital letter if you like how that looks a little bit better. So in this case, switching out that first letter makes it more readable. You can take a typical font and use it as your base font. From there, you can add something unique or distinct to make it your own type and make it unique to your brand. I have a wonderful downloadable resource that goes along with this lesson that contains an Anatomy of Typography poster that goes over a lot of the terms we went over in this lesson and more.